What is going on, Navigation Nation, and welcome back to another video. Today we are counting down the top 10 best Pokemon cards to invest in from the year 2020. I have gotten a ton of questions from the community asking me, hey PokeNav, which cards released this year do you think have the best long-term value? So today I'm going to break down the cards that I'm investing in personally and that I think all of you should as well. And guys, if you like these videos and you like learning more about Pokemon card investing, then do me a favor and show your support by giving me that double slap attack, one for that like button, one for that subscribe button, and if you want to be notified each and every time a new video drops, go ahead and thunder punch that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. Starting things off on our list, we are taking it all the way back to the original Sword and Shield base set, and this is probably a couple cards that you guys had forgotten about, but coming in at number 10 is the full art gold Zacian and Zamazenta V. As I said, these both come to us from the Sword and Shield base set. And really, I combine them both together because they're really on par as far as their overall value as things stand. Currently out on the open market, they're going for about $200 each in PSA 10s. But I really like these particular cards. Zacian and Zamazenta were really the trademarks and really the mascots for Sword and Shield. And going back to the original base set for Sword and Shield, these cards were really sought after and they're beautiful in and of their own right. You know, that gold artwork, that gold aesthetic, I think is really pleasing to the eye. And so I think these cards actually have a lot of long-term value, something that collectors, I think, will look back on fondly and will want in their collection. So coming in at number 10, as I said, is the full art gold Zacian and Zamazenta V. Next up on our list, we are taking it to the most recent set to release in English, and that is Vivid Voltage. And the card coming in at the number 9 spot is the amazing rare Celebi. Now, with the release of the newest Pokemon movie featuring Zarude, I believe that Celebi is probably going to have a resurgence in popularity in years to come. And on top of that, we now have the introduction of amazing rare cards in the English expansions, and Vivid Voltage was the first set to feature that. Now, of all the amazing rares, arguably Celebi is at the top of the list as far as popularity and value goes. And out on the open market, this card in a PSA 10 is currently going for around $200. And over the long term, as I've said before, I think a set that introduces a particular type of card, I think that will be something that is a hallmark for that set. It provides value to it as you go on into the future, and that combined with the fact that you've got the new movie coming out, I think Celebi is going to grow in popularity, and I think this card will follow suit. Coming in just ahead of Celebi and continuing in the same vein of the amazing rare cards, at our number 8 spot is none other than the amazing rare Rayquaza. And again, this also comes to us from Vivid Voltage. This card on the open market is currently going for about $250 in a PSA 10. Again, of all the amazing rare cards, it does appear that the Rayquaza and the Celebi are the most popular. You could probably include the amazing rare Jirachi in there as well, as one of the more popular cards, but just from a value standpoint, Jirachi really isn't making the same cut as Rayquaza and Celebi. So I would include Rayquaza in here, going just above Celebi on our list. Again, I love the amazing rare cards. I love that they've kind of set a precedence for Pokemon cards for future sets, and I think that the Rayquaza, of all the cards that have been in this initial release for Amazing Rares, I think it does top the list as far as popularity and value, and it will probably continue to do that as we move on into the coming years. The next card on our list is one that you guys probably aren't that familiar with, and technically it wasn't released in 2020. It was actually released in very late 2019, but I went ahead and included it on this list anyways because it coincides with the release of Sword and Shield base set, and that is the Full Art Pikachu pre-order promo. Now, this is a promo card that you got if you pre-ordered the Sword and Shield base set. Now, the artwork on this card is really beautiful, very unique. You guys know that I'm a big fan of promo cards. Now, there is both the Japanese and an English version out there. The Japanese card is the one that I'm really focusing on for long-term investment value, and I think that it is definitely showing out on the open market. Currently, this card is going for about $300 in a PSA 10, and as you've seen with many other promo cards from the past, especially this one, which was really the introduction to the Sword and Shield era, I think this card has a lot of potential moving on into the future, and one that I can see in a lot of collections 5-10 years down the line. So as we continue on down the list of the top 10 best Pokemon cards to invest in from 2020, little spoiler alert, it is going to be very Charizard heavy from here on out. But in a year that we saw the release of so many Charizard cards, what more can you do? This has really been the gold standard of Pokemon from the very beginning, any Charizard cards, and in a year that we saw so many of them released in various sets, it's only natural that these cards would have the most value for cards being released in this year. But coming in at our number 6 spot is the Full Art Charizard Vmax from Darkness Ablaze. Now, Darkness Ablaze as an overall set, I thought was pretty abysmal for the most part. We did get to satisfy ourselves with this Charizard card in there, but really outside of that, Darkness Ablaze wasn't an overall great set, and I think that's why you're seeing the value of this particular Charizard take a hit on the overall market. Currently, it's going for about $300 in a PSA 10, which for a Charizard seems pretty low even for an ultra modern card. Still seems pretty low for a Charizard, and I think it really has to do with the overall set itself and the fact that it just really wasn't that popular for most people. But even with that being said, I think long-term value for this Charizard card, I think it will hold a strong value as we go on into the future. The pull rates on it weren't that great. They weren't, they weren't in the same category as many other Charizards that we saw in later sets. So I think that definitely bodes well for it moving on into the future. So Full Art Charizard, the first Charizard to make our list, coming in at number 6. All right, guys, so we've reached the halfway point on this top 10 list, and coming in at number 5, we have the Full Art Shiny Charizard VMAX from Shiny Star V. Now, you guys might be surprised to see this card in the middle of this list and not near the top, considering its value as things stand. Currently on the open market, it's going for about $1,000 in a PSA 10, which is one of the more expensive cards on this list. But as you know, next year for March's set, we are getting this same Charizard in Shining Fates. And what we've seen before with cards of this nature, where it's released in its Japanese version and then in its English equivalent, it does take quite a bit of a hit in its Japanese form. And I think that's probably what we're going to see with this particular card as well. I would imagine once Shining Fates is released, this card will probably settle in at about a $500 to $600 price point. But even being said, I still think that this card over the long term will hold a strong value. But because of this same card coming out next year in its English equivalent, I don't really think that it deserves being higher on the list. But nonetheless, it's still a beautiful card, and I still think that it's one you guys should definitely be looking at to invest in from 2020. And continuing with the Charizard train, coming in at number 4 on our list is the Hyper Rare Charizard VMAX from Champion's Path. Now, this particular card, it was really rare to see not one but 2 Charizards released in the same set, especially one that was as small as Champion's Path. That being said, however, the pull rates on this card were pretty high for the most part. There were quite a few people pulling this particular card. On the open market, it's currently going for about $750 in a PSA 10, and it has dropped pretty significantly in value from its initial release on the open market to now. Initially, it was going for about $1,500, and it now has dropped down to $750. So it's almost dropped by half. But that being said, I think over the long term, this is a really beautiful card, one of the best Charizard cards we saw this year. And so I think that being said, over the long term, I think this card will hold a pretty strong value, but unfortunately, because of those high pull rates, it doesn't quite make the list of our top 3 cards of 2020. All right, guys, we have made it to the top 3 cards that I am personally investing in from 2020, and the close cousin to the hyper rare Charizard VMAX, we have coming in at number 3, the shiny Charizard V, also from Champion's Path. Now, as I said, it was really rare to see 2 Charizards in the same set, especially this particular card that was released in North America prior to being released in Japan. That was a really rare occurrence and something that we don't see very often. Now, out on the open market, this card trumps the hyper rare Charizard VMAX just slightly in its overall value. Currently, it's going for about $800 in a PSA 10. And, you know, overall, guys, this is a really nice card. It's a beautiful card, cool artwork. Shiny cards are always a fan favorite and one that I think collectors will look back on fondly. Over the next 1 to 5 years, I could definitely see this card getting more up along the lines of that $1,500 to $2,000 range. And 10 plus years into the future, I could see that being in the same kind of category as maybe the Plasma Storm Charizard, you know, getting upwards of around that $5,000 to $10,000 range by about that 10-year time horizon. So here we are, guys, coming in at number 2 on our list, the runner-up of the second best Pokemon card to invest in from 2020, and it's not a Charizard. It is none other than the hyper rare Pikachu VMAX from Vivid Voltage. Now, you may be surprised to see this card so high on the list, but for one, and in my opinion, this particular card is a harkening back to Pokemon's original mascot. This was probably the most hyped Pikachu card that I've seen in quite some time, and Pokemon really did a great job in creating awesome artwork for this card, and also for the rarity of this card and its pull rate. It was about a 1 in 1,000 pull rate, which is really, really difficult, and I can certainly attest to this. I've opened up a lot of booster boxes, ETBs, pin collections, and I have yet to come across this particular card, and so I think that will lend to its long-term value as we go on into the future. Currently, it's sitting at about $900 in a PSA 10, and these are really hard to come by. There is not very many PSA 10s out there in this particular card, so I think it will have a low pop as well. It does seem very difficult to grade. So because of all of those factors taken together, I have to give Hyper Rare Pikachu VMAX from Vivid Voltage the runner-up spot on this top 10 list of the best Pokemon cards to invest in from 2020. All right, guys, we have made it to the number 1 spot on this list, and without further ado, the card that I am investing in above all else that has been released in the year 2020 is the Staff Pre-Release Black Star Promo Charizard from Vivid Voltage. Now, if you guys have seen the value on these particular cards out on the open market, it has really been astronomical. They have been going for about $3,500 to $4,000 in a PSA 10, and that's really because of the collectible aspect of this, having that staff logo print on the card itself. Even the other promo cards that were featured in the build and battle boxes, these have been going for good money as well, but by and large, this staff pre-release promo is really head and shoulders above the rest. Now, the reason that these have become so popular, one is because they're very rare, and one of the reasons that I am investing in this card is because of a recent notice by the Pokemon Company issued to many stores, card shops out there, that basically stated the following: please note that staff promo cards have been discontinued and you will not receive any staff promo cards starting after the upcoming Pokemon TCG expansion, so after Vivid Voltage. So essentially Pokemon has relinquished continuing with these staff pre-release promos, and I believe it's in some ways for a good reason. They don't want to issue cards to hosts as more or less a thank you and then turn around and see those cards out on the open market going for big money. Now, with that being said, I do have to give a caveat for this particular card. And one of the reasons that I really wanted to invest in it is because of the discontinuation of the staff pre-release promos. Now, just a few days after Pokemon issued this statement, they came back out and issued this. Due to the current situation surrounding the suspension of Play Pokemon events, we are temporarily pausing the distribution of staff promos. We are constantly working to improve the Play Pokemon program for our retail locations, organizers, players, and the Pokemon community, and many factors go into these decisions. However, we are excited to be developing new promotional materials for the Play Pokemon retail program. So Pokemon, even after issuing that initial statement, this one is a little bit more vague. So we don't really have a firm confirmation that these staff pre-release promos will in fact be discontinued. So I'm going to place a little asterisk on this number one spot. And if in fact Pokemon does not continue with these cards, I think these are going to be quite valuable moving on into the future. I can see these cards going for tens of thousands of dollars by the time they hit that 10-year time horizon. And so I think these are definitely cards that you should look to be getting now. And as long as they remain discontinued, I think they are going to have an enormous value moving on into the future. So that is going to do it for today, fellow navigators. Hopefully you enjoyed this top 10 list. Let me know if you agree with it, if you disagree with it, and what your top 10 list of the best Pokemon cards from 2020 to invest in would be. I would love to hear that. I would love to hear your guys' opinion. Other than that, I will see you all next time. My name is PokéNav. I'm here to help you navigate the world of Pokemon one video at a time, and I will see you all in the next video.